Tonight, new hope in the pandemic battle as more vaccines arrive and are given to frontline health workers. A second vaccine now expected to win emergency FDA approval as soon as Friday. How does it compare, and when will the vaccines reach hard-hit communities of color? Plus, the new home test just approved. No prescription needed. Results almost instantly. All of it as the CDC issues a grim prediction tonight as the death toll climbs and new cases and hospitalizations soar. The massive winter storm taking aim tonight. Tens of millions under threat. Major cities in the path. Some areas facing 2 feet of snow. The most powerful Republican in Congress finally congratulates Joe Biden and Kamala Harris on their victories. President Trump still not conceding as Biden campaigns in Georgia 3 weeks before those all-important Senate runoffs. In this season of giving, as more and more food banks struggle, tonight the spotlight on children going hungry and how you can help. One man's heroic effort helping to save 7 family members from a burning apartment. Incredible scenes as they jump to safety. Holiday shipping alert, a big deadline just hours away. And I'll introduce you to a teacher so dedicated, not even a hospital stay could keep her from her students.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. The road from having no COVID vaccine to 2 vaccines appears to be a short one. Just a day after the start of a nationwide inoculation program using Pfizer's vaccine, the FDA review of Moderna's vaccine shows it's just as effective as promised and could win approval within days. It's a critical shot in the arm, if you will, for a fledgling program that will need to potentially vaccinate hundreds of millions of Americans. And now in its second day in hospitals across America. Tom Costello has the latest.
Tonight, a second vaccine is likely just days away after an FDA review confirmed Moderna's vaccine is just as effective as Pfizer's with 94% efficacy, apparently preventing symptoms and infection. Like Pfizer, anyone getting the vaccine will need 2 shots, but Moderna's vaccine does not require the deep cold that Pfizer requires.
Its cold chain requirements are actually less stringent in that it requires a cold that's that of a freezer, that like the freezers we have at home.
That should make it easier for smaller hospitals and clinics that don't have deep freezer capabilities. With approval expected on Friday, nearly 6 million Moderna doses will start shipping Monday. More Pfizer doses will also ship, with 1,100 nursing homes getting their first doses. Today, more hospital staffers were rolling up their sleeves.
Here's your vaccine card.
From a drive-through in Tulsa to Boston to Anchorage to Jacksonville, where we met oral surgeon Dr. Salam Salman, whose father works at Pfizer in Kalamazoo.
I think this is the most significant accomplishment in medicine over the past 100 years, and the fact that it came from where I'm from and from where my dad works is a huge sense of pride for me.
At the University of Wisconsin Med Center in Madison, Dr. Ann Sheehy received her shot yesterday. How are you feeling?
I feel great today. No symptoms, no side effects, just incredibly optimistic and hopeful that we're at this point.
At Yale University, one of Pfizer's principal vaccine researchers was the first to receive it today.
Even as a father of 3 kids, worried after work that I could take the disease back home, it's just so good on so many levels that I get to get the vaccine today.
Meanwhile, the FDA today authorized the first at-home rapid antigen test for COVID. A simple nose swab with results in 20 minutes. The kit's expected in drugstores in January.
Tom, I'm curious about this at-home test. How much does it cost?
Yeah, we're told to expect about $30, and the manufacturer is ramping up production, expected to put out 100,000 tests every single day next month.
All right, Tom Costello tonight. Thank you. Beyond frontline workers and people in nursing homes, many think communities of color, some of the hardest hit during this pandemic, should receive the vaccine next. Our Gabe Gutierrez reports.
All right.
Today, the first vaccinations of healthcare workers at Loretto Hospital on Chicago's West Side, where Black Americans make up 40% of COVID deaths.
Equity isn't part of our COVID-19 strategy. It is our strategy.
In Washington, D.C., more vaccinations at Howard University Hospital as public health officials, including the Surgeon General, are now highlighting the critical need to reach communities of color in the months ahead. Just over half of states with publicly available plans for vaccine distribution have at least one mention of incorporating racial equity.
It's not just ethically permissible, but it's an ethical imperative. They've suffered historical and unconscionable deficits in health in every area you can imagine.
Kenny Brown is a community organizer in Columbus, Ohio, who's fighting vaccine skepticism in minority neighborhoods.
There's a distrust which is definitely valid because of some of the things that happened to our community in the past.
In Newark, New Jersey's multi-ethnic Ironbound neighborhood, where the COVID positivity rate tops a staggering 40%, Flavia Perez told us she's scared of the vaccine, even though her father's been hospitalized with COVID for more than a month.
There's a great amount of mistrust.
Vicky Hernandez runs a community center here.
Black and brown communities primarily make up essential workers, and they have been disproportionately affected by COVID, and so for that reason they should be prioritized.
She says a survey of her members shows that only 1 in 3 plans to get vaccinated right away. Lester?
All right, Gabe Gutierrez tonight, thank you. And as this vaccine is distributed, the toll of the pandemic grows worse, with more than 301,000 Americans now dead, and a grim prediction. With that, here's Miguel Almaguer.
Crash cart, ultrasound. As our nation continues to lose a record number of Americans,
ventilator, artificial breathing, induced coma.
Tonight, with many hospitals already on the brink, the CDC says in the next 2.5 weeks, up to 60,000 more are projected to die. The heartbreaking loss of life taking a toll on those trying to save them.
I don't think any of us would make it through this without each other.
As the number of nationwide infections skyrockets, more children than ever, nearly 180,000 last week alone, were diagnosed with COVID. But there are dwindling resources for the sick. More than a third of Americans live in areas where hospitals are critically short on ICU beds. There are none in parts of California.
With nearly 40,000 new infections every day in California alone, surge tents and field hospitals are now taking patients. The governor has ordered 5,000 body bags.
In Alabama, ICU nurse Amber Ellis lost her 63-year-old father.
Nothing could prepare me emotionally or spiritually for that moment.
Steve Ewing died in the very COVID ward where his daughter helped save so many lives.
It's just heartbreaking. I miss him every day. And it's so difficult sometimes to keep putting one foot in front of the other because I lost him in everything I did. I tried so hard, I still couldn't save him.
Tonight, the loss is staggering and still far from over. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
In other news tonight, much of the Northeast is bracing for a dangerous snowstorm already hitting the plains. Al Roker is tracking it. Al, what's the latest?
Lester, we've got 65 million people under a winter weather alert tonight. And what we've got now is low pressure developing along the southeastern Atlantic coast. It's going to have a lot of moisture available to it from the Gulf and the Atlantic. It pushes north and slams into cold Arctic Canadian air. That's a recipe for heavy snow, 1 to 3 inches from Washington, D.C. By Thursday, we've got upwards of 1.5 feet interior sections of Pennsylvania. From Philly, New York to Hartford, upwards of 1 foot, maybe less in Boston. Of course, Lester, it all depends on the track. We'll update that tomorrow morning on Today. Lester.
All right, Al, thanks very much. If we can, we're going to move to the political storms now. Post-election, the Senate's top Republican for the first time acknowledging Joe Biden will be the 46th president. But Kristen Welker reports no such concession from number 45.
Tonight, Joe Biden revealing he had his first conversation with the top Senate Republican, Mitch McConnell.
I had a good conversation with Mitch McConnell today. I called him to thank him for the congratulations.
It comes after McConnell called Biden the president-elect for the first time on the heels of the Electoral College affirming Biden's win.
As of this morning, our country has officially a president-elect and a vice president-elect.
Though Biden's victory is now a legal certainty, the president is still not conceding.
The president is still involved in ongoing litigation related to the election. Yesterday's vote was one step in the constitutional process.
Still, a growing number of Republican senators are acknowledging Biden's win, and so are foreign leaders. including Mexico's President López Obrador and Russian President Vladimir Putin, who congratulated Biden in a telegram. All of it as Biden overnight delivered his most forceful condemnation yet of President Trump for refusing to concede.
The flame of democracy was lit in this nation a long time ago. And we now know nothing, not even a pandemic or an abuse of power, can extinguish that flame.
And there are signs of progress toward a COVID relief bill. Bipartisan negotiators will meet for a second time later tonight, everyone agreeing they cannot leave Washington without a deal. Lester.
All right, Kristen, thank you. In Georgia, critical runoffs that will determine control of the Senate. President-elect Biden is there, and here is our Blaine Alexander.
After narrowly flipping Georgia blue, tonight, President-elect Joe Biden is hoping to do the same with the U.S. Senate.
You got to vote in record numbers again.
Campaigning for Democrats John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock. If both win January runoffs, Democrats take control of the Senate. If one loses, Republicans keep control.
Send me these two men, and we will control the Senate, and we will change the lives of people in Georgia.
It comes after President Trump made a stop in the state for GOP Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler, despite the president's own repeated attacks on Georgia elections after losing.
Because at stake in this election is control of the U.S. Senate, and that really means control of this country.
We found Republicans eagerly voting early.
So you've done absentee voting for the past few elections, but you're changing it this time. Why?
Because I don't necessarily trust the absentee voting process.
Democrats, too.
So you see this as an extension of the presidential election?
Yes, yes. Yes, I do.
And with the election 3 weeks away, the big names keep coming. Vice President Mike Pence will be back in Georgia on Thursday. Lester.
All right, Blaine Alexander, thank you. With so many families struggling because of the economic toll of the pandemic, we're facing a growing food crisis. NBC News and Feeding America teamed up to help raise awareness. And you can help, too. You're going to notice a QR code on the screen throughout Cynthia McFadden's report. Just hold your phone's camera up and scan to help those in need. Here's Cynthia's report on the heartbreaking impact on children.
Just south of Boston, Norfolk County, Massachusetts, has a distinction no one would want. The greatest increase in child hunger of any place in the country, up 163%.
Thank you guys so much. Merry Christmas.
Here in Weymouth, Shayna has come for food. She tells me her husband is out of work.
Things are really, really tough right now. We've been hungry a lot, so without this food bank, we'd probably, not eat some nights. Yeah, we get mac and cheese.
We've seen so many more people for the first time since this all started, people who've never used the food pantry before.
With the holidays approaching and federal aid stalled for months, many families like these are barely able to hold on to the side of the lifeboat. Not far away, Yahaira Lopez is raising twin 11-year-old boys, both with unique learning needs. 2 years ago, she co-founded a community food pantry in Norfolk County, but since being laid off during the pandemic, she now sometimes needs help herself.
I went to college, and you think, I went to college, I have this degree, I'm going to get this top-notch job, and then realizing that in this pandemic, I am no different than so many families throughout America.
Have you cried?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Several times in the shower.
So the kids can't see you?
Yep.
Catherine D'Amato runs the Greater Boston Food Bank, serving 550 local pantries and pushing 2.5 million pounds of food out the door every week, nearly doubling what they've been doing before the pandemic. You've been in the food bank business for a really long time. In 40 years, is this the most difficult time?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I've been through plenty of disasters. We haven't seen it so pervasive.
Food is more expensive here than almost anywhere in the country, and unemployment is high. In June, the highest in the nation. You said there is no vaccine for hunger.
Right. It's a problem that can't be cured by an inoculation, but it's a solvable problem. It simply takes the political will and individual will to make this problem go away.
30 miles away.
I will tell you, probably the most difficult thing I've seen throughout this pandemic are the families that come and bring their children. And to see a mom walk through the door with her 3 little kids and they're looking around, and mom's struggling. She's never done this before either. That's something that really, really hits you. We need to do better. We are able to solve problems. We just found a vaccine for a novel coronavirus in less than 1 year because the entire world was working toward one purpose. Imagine what we could do if the world got together and said, we need to end food insecurity.
We learned there are as many stories about what led people to these lines as there are people in them. But at least one question is universal. How do you explain to your kids that in the richest country on earth, so many go to bed hungry, and that some nights it might even be them? Cynthia McFadden, NBC News.
This is a challenge for all of us. Please take a moment to scan the QR code on your screen if you're able to. As of this evening, between Feeding America and the Today Show, $1.5 million has been raised, which equals 15 million meals for those in need. In just 60 seconds, the shipping deadline that can save you big bucks. Just 9 shopping days until Christmas and even fewer shipping days. Joe Lynn Kent now on the race against time and the new warning from the post office.
With ground shipping deadlines passing today, customers and carriers are bracing for the ultimate package crunch. The only shipping options left are express services that will cost you more money and aren't always guaranteed. Target warning of potential shipping delays, and the post office adding this red flag on its website, warning of unprecedented volume increases and limited employee availability.
We're growing at greater than 50% year over year.
DHL, one of the largest carriers in the world, added 3,000 U.S. workers and new robotics to handle the surge.
What's your advice to online shoppers in the final stretch?
What I would say is get your orders in, get them in now. I would not wait till Friday the 18th. I would get those orders in the next 24 to 48 hours.
And once your packages do arrive, law enforcement warning to get them quickly to prevent porch pirates, thieves who are targeting you in this lucrative online holiday shopping season.
So you can check off your list and get everything home for the holidays. Jolene Kent, NBC News, Los Angeles.
We're back in a moment with a raging house fire. 7 people trapped inside and 1 young man who kept his cool. 7 members of a Georgia family are lucky to be alive tonight, though survival had less to do with luck than with the bravery of 1 young man. Here's Sam Brock.
Oh my God!
The fire exploding from this house in Georgia. Only one snapshot of the horror unfolding inside.
The top of the windowsill was already on fire at that point.
Jaquil Moss, home by happen chance, racing to get his 5 cousins, mother, and 76-year-old grandmother out.
It was coming from beneath us and on top of us at the same time.
With everyone trapped in the bedroom, a 3-story window, their only option. His family members leapt first, leaving Jaquil and his grandmother, Agnes, with flames closing in.
She was so afraid that she started shaking and she passed out as I was holding her. And so trying to get her out of the window. So when I let her go.
Agnes landed on a mattress brought from a nearby apartment. Then Jaquil jumped with seconds to spare.
I just think he's the hero in this. And if he wasn't around, it would have been a different story.
Go! The fall leading to broken backs, bones, and burns all over. But a family also grateful just to be alive. Sam Brock, NBC News.
Yeah, so thankful everyone made it out. Up next, even from the hospital, she gave her students what they needed most. As we continue our look at teachers inspiring America, tonight we meet a teacher near Dallas who refused to let an illness and hospital stay separate her from her kids.
What would you think about that?
Stephanie Hume has been teaching for nearly 20 years. Kids are really looking for some reassurance. These are unsettling times for grown-ups and kids alike.
Stability is key.
So when she found herself in the emergency room having difficulty breathing and swallowing, her students were on her mind.
They were like, we're going to have to do some surgery and you have to stay. Well, the first thought that popped into my mind was, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to finish this book within the next couple of days. We were on like chapter 8 of a 10-chapter book.
And that's exactly what she did.
I didn't want y'all to miss the last part of your book.
During her 11-day hospital stay, the 5th grade reading and writing teacher at Sewell Elementary School who is also a two-time cancer survivor, didn't miss a beat.
Never had a teacher that would be in a hospital bed and would read a book on a camera.
I was really proud of her as a student.
Hume, now back in the classroom, is part of a long line of educators, including her grandfather, mother, and children.
Can you for a moment talk to those who may be considering teaching as a career and tell them why it is so special?
The moment when you see a kid go, oh, I get it, and that light bulb goes off and they've understood something that they've struggled with, because whatever challenges are out there in teaching, the reward is so much more.
We'll have to look forward to another adventure very soon. I'll see y'all later.
By the way, her mom served as her classroom substitute during her hospital stay. That's Nightly News for this evening. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.